At the end of the day, I said preservationist, conservationist. I can't tell you how many non-hunting, animal rights groups that still will look at me sideways because the conservation model is, I'm never going to convince them and I shouldn't have to. We sit where we sit, emotionally, rationally, whatever our gut tells us, and that's okay. Agree to disagree, but...
Ever since I saw Denzel do that for real in Safe House, I'm like, I can do it.
Yeah.
I could take it.
I can do it. I can do it. I can at least do it 2 or 3 times, if I've got the conditioning on the arms. Yeah, not in our scope, but yeah, man, it was...
But basically,
just mind-blowing.
They have it set up in such an organized, compartmentalized way that they make your job really tough because there's deniability everywhere. So it's almost like you find these huge plantations, whatever the hell you want to call them, these plazas, and they are a part of this huge RICO transnational conspiracy, but they're just one little expendable peg on it. Because they can, all right, it's a business expense. They lose a couple here because, there's a couple good law enforcement officers. They figured it out. No problem. We got 30 over there. Yeah. They don't know about those ones.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we were starting to make the link especially when the team started in 2013, that, we were working larger cases or working with agencies that were working larger cases of finding a plaza boss like this guy was. Seeing what he was doing in the dope grows, but then finding all the other things he was involved in, like having business fronts for money laundering, being part of human trafficking, or running a meth operation. And this is right before fentanyl suddenly became the big cash attractant crop cow for these guys, right?
What years are we in right now?
We're getting to like 2012, 2013, like right on the precipice of going formalized with the marijuana enforcement team, with my unit. And now we're still concentrating we're handling the weed on the environmental front, but now we're realizing the term polycriminal comes in with my federal colleagues, especially DA. And you look at it like, so this guy that's in this grow today, and say he's running the grow. He's not a plaza boss, but he's running the grow. Everyone's working for him. He's processing, he's growing, he's watering, he's trimming. He's starting to, get that out. He's working with somebody right next door that's leading the meth charge, right, in the winter and in the summer, doing these 22-pound meth cooks, the super meth now that's just nasty. And then that guy's working side by side with the guy that's bringing dirty fentanyl pills from labs. And he's got all of his, infrastructure in place on how he gets across the border, kind of like you and Jorge talked about, the Chinese operatives coming across with clean passports, very cleanly cut, military-age males, and they're all set up. They're running a whole different scheme on how they're getting by. It's costing them a lot more money to get across. Same type of deal. And now this guy's, responsible for fentanyl distribution in the Northwest of 7 or 8 states. It's all sectionalized. So when we're fighting a weed cartel, we're fighting those same people. We're going to have, human traffickers. And that's the thing to remember. So when people say, well, weed's legal, I don't use it, or I do, I'm not worried about it for my kids. It sounds kind of like a crazy war story, but there's other stuff going on right now.
Oh, for sure.
With the election, the divisiveness, and COVID, I can't really focus on this right now. But I come back to, and this is what I dumped on Congress. I testified in Congress, presented twice in the last year. And the first presentation, I basically said, guys, I don't know of a bigger problem in America that affects every American directly or indirectly that should be much more of a priority within our own borders. A domestic fight to stop this public safety threat these cartels are generating, these transnational criminal organizations, and the environmental destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what though? It's not, and it's a great point you make that people get lost in the idea of like, oh, it's weed, and culturally we know what that is. All the other things you're talking about, the chemicals they put on it that are deadly. The fact that, and this scares the shit out of me, I don't have kids yet, but like when I was coming up, I bought a joint. It was a joint. It was good sativa. Let's have it. Yeah. Now I'm like, oh, could there be fucking fentanyl in that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like getting laced into this stuff. Like,
yes.
It has so many. Yeah, exactly.
Answer is yes.
It has so many more layers to it now that the fact that like, especially like you said, it's happening inside of our own borders. This isn't even the issue where it's like on the border or something. Right. This is deep in Northern California and some of these other states you laid out earlier, and Jorge talked about obviously a lot. It's like, how were you not making this a priority?
Yeah. And we talked a little bit before the show about how non-political I like to be. But I think knowledge is power. I trust the American public enough to say, just don't sugarcoat it. Get it out there. Try to get the message out as honestly as you can. And we're all going to make good judgments on, is this policy or this particular administration working for our best interest? Are they working for American safety? Are they working for security, public safety? And what about environmental purity and water? Because one thing I've noticed through all the political divisiveness we've had all these years, when my team was formed and our team developed and all the people that were part of it, it was a unifier. It was an absolute unifier with hard left, hard right, everybody in the middle.
The people working on it.
Yeah, it was a unifier. Well, I'm talking about the people that would get wind of the issue from growers, pro-cannabis, anti-cannabis, whatever. At the end of the day, I said preservationist, conservationist. I can't tell you how many non-hunting, animal rights groups that still will look at me sideways because the conservation model is, I'm never going to convince them and I shouldn't have to. We sit where we sit, emotionally, rationally, whatever our gut tells us, and that's okay. Agree to disagree, but you don't want to never see a black bear or steelhead trout or a deer for your kids and grandkids, and a clean, steelhead migrating in clean water you can drink in your forest. And I never want to see, as a hunter, an animal die from a central nervous system shutdown, frothing at the mouth, suffocating with their blood, anticoagulating and thinning in their body, and dying a slow, painful death within minutes of ingesting this crap. So let's agree this is nasty, and let's agree it's a problem, and it affects all of us. And, we get support from both sides. It's one thing that it'll put all of us in the room, and people will get off their, defense systems, lower the deflector shields down a little bit, and just listen and get pretty sad, get pretty outraged.
When you've testified before Congress in recent years, though, how did that come to be? There's different ways this happened. People get subpoenaed or whatever, but there's also testimony that happens where certain congressmen are like, "Ooh, I want this expert to come in because our committee talks about this type of issue." Like what was your intro there to DC?
It was obviously when I retired and I could speak freely, and having this book drop April after I retired the previous December.
Back in 2019.
In 2019. When it dropped and the gloves were off and I could speak freely on the issue and disparage nobody, but just put it out there. And I could talk about the country, because I'm not just California now. I'm dealing with the byproducts everywhere throughout our great nation. And knowing that, 80, 90+% of black market weed from all over the freaking nation, that's right here where we're at on the Eastern Seaboard, right here in Jersey, New York, Chicago, the Midwest, it's coming from those West Coast cannabis farms.
Right, yeah. I got some in the drawer out there.
Awesome, but no carbofuran, man. I hope it came from a dispensary, bro. We got to test it, because you talked about...
Tommy G tested it a couple weeks ago. It was good.
Hey, Jay, you talk about freaking fentanyl on your joint, man. Carbofuran, just bad.
Yeah.
Won't kill you quite as fast, but it'll be...
Doesn't look good.
Don't look good.
Yeah.
Taint gross, tastes like crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, that got the attention of a lot of people. And then regulations started happening in other states that mimic California. Even though I said, don't do that, but they did it. They made it misdemeanors. They saw the taxes, and now they're having not only the Mexican cartel, but the Chinese collusion, which we can dive into a little more.
That's coming.
Yeah. I can't wait. I know. I saw you guys light up.
We're going to get there.
I just love it. I love that we don't hold back, bro.
You're a fire hose. I'm just letting you go, man. There's so much happening. There's some times where I try to and I'm like, no, he's going.
Yeah, and I want to caveat an apology on that right now, because
no apology. It's fucking great.
When I talk about it with someone that gives a shit and is so knowledgeable like you, I'm back there, And I mean, we're talking. Some of these were 15, 20 years ago. Some of them were just experiences that happened 2-3 months ago, say with this team I trained or whatever. And thank you.
Well, I'm glad. I'm definitely not knowledgeable, but I am curious. I mean, this is I just learned about you a few months ago.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's crazy. Yeah. I didn't know that. Watching the video, guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.